Yeah. Uptown. Yeah, yo, we kicking it live. Vince and Stevie D, OWSPORTS podcast is the place to be. Bill's Mafia, repping the red, white, and blue, no doubt. With Josh Allen, just stand up and shout. Gang Green, coming with that New York flair. Jets in the mix, you know they taking it there. The rivalry is fierce, but they keep it 100. Legends in the making, pressure never stunted. From MetLife to Highmark, bright lights when the night's dark. Touchdown, dream, steel beams, leave a big spark. Bills and Jets, we clash on the field. But on this podcast, we keep it sealed. Respect for the game, we all in the zone. Vince and Stevie D, we holding our own. So tune in tight, don't miss a beat. OW Sports, where the real ones meet. Sit back.
It's OW Sports, the fastest growing podcast about the Buffalo Bills and New York Jets. You get the best takes, the most engaging interviews, and they are always keeping it real. So sit back, relax, and get ready to talk some NFL. Now here's your hosts, Vince and Stevie D.
And welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince. I'm here with my co-host, Stevie D. Stevie D. First and foremost, I gotta say this. It was so good to see my man, Stevie D, live and in person. Normally, it's through the miracles of modern technology, utilizing the podcast and the cameras and all that, or on a FaceTime. But my man came on down to Florida on a little vacation, like a little red up top. I see it out in the sun. I see it. I see you got some going on. And I was able to hang out with Stevie D. Matter of fact, I was able to hang out with some people wearing green.
Yeah. You know, it was first. I mean, you said it best, right? It was great to see you, see Mom, get some quality time with the both of you, go out and break some bread with you. I mean, it was like old times back when I was living in Tampa, right? And those are the things that stink when you move away, all right? Because you almost take for granted those times that we had and all the holidays we got to spend together. You know, we were joking about it while we were there, right? You were the first person to see Richard after he was born, right? Like it's just like magic when I come back into town. We get to be together in person and just chop it up together.
Went from this to now I'm looking at what in the world? Kids, stop growing. Especially when you don't see people, because in your mind, they are still this big. And then you see them and hey, a full-grown man right there.
Yeah.
A full-grown man pitching in college baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it was great to go to the tailgate. You know, obviously you stopped by the Jets tailgate, the One Team, Our Team tailgate hosted by Anthony and Johnny and Frankie. And what a great job they did. They gave me their hat as part of the group there. So that was kind of cool. Anthony gave me that hat there. So I want to get that displayed today. But, you know, Nick, he's watching, you know, now he's driving right now. You know, he was the master on the grill. You know, obviously once he gets back into town, we'll hopefully get those sauces and we get to do that taste test on the air. But just, you know, it's funny, you communicate with so many folks through Facebook, right? Through the One Team, Our Team, or Jets Hanger, or just on my personal, you know, page, and you talk Jets, and like there was some ladies there that were checking us in, giving us the wristbands. I'm like, oh my God, I know who you guys are, right? They don't know who I am, but I see their photos all the time at the Jet home games. And so when you see people post, and now you get to meet these folks in person, you know, it's just really great. It just reminds you of, no matter what your fandom is in NFL, no matter what team you're rooting for, when you get to hang out with people that root for the same team, and you have social media and it brings you together, was phenomenal. You know, and it's funny. One quick story is, so Saturday night after we left, you know, Rich wanted to go over to the hotel in Tampa, and Nick, you know, was there. We met up with Nick. We were hanging out with Nick. He's like, "Oh, let's go up to Frankie's room." So we go up to Frankie's room, and so there's Frankie in the room, and I think his name was Andrew. I don't know, but he was from Brooklyn, and then there was another guy from Queens. Frankie, I believe, is originally from Elmhurst, New York. And then you have Nick from Staten Island, right? So Rich is sitting listening to us have this conversation, right? And so you got me from the Long Island accent, right? So you got basically most of the boroughs covered, and then you got the Long Island accent, right? And he's sitting there listening to this conversation, and Frankie's got a great, he's probably in his 60s. Hopefully, I'm doing him justice. Maybe he's in his 50s. I don't know, but we'll say 50s and 60s. So he's got this swag about him when he's talking, and so do the other guys, right? So you got all these accents, and so we're hanging out there for maybe about 90 minutes or so, and then we break up. Nick's got to go, and Rich and I will end up leaving, and we get into the stairwell to go down to one floor, and Rich says, "Man, I wish I videotaped that." What do you mean videotape that? Oh my God, the people back at school are never going to believe it. So what do you mean? He says, "Are you kidding me, Dad? The accents, the language." He's like, it was like watching The Sopranos. He's like, my teammates are never going to believe me that this conversation went down like that. So I mean, again, it was like a little bit of home. Listen to the guy speak to me. It's old habit listening, to those conversations. But listen to Richard talk about that was great, and so just unbelievable. And the last thing I'll say about the group, I got to meet a gentleman named Thomas. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, if it's Neil or Kiel, but he's from Germany, and they had this whole contingency coming over from Germany, and their group is the 103 Crew Germany, and they're a jet group, and they come over multiple times a year. And one of the cool things that I heard, and Thomas was able to confirm this to be true, is that they come over about 8 or 9 guys, and they select a new person every time they come to the U.S. to come over with them. Well, that in itself sounds pretty cool, but they pay for it. So the person that comes over doesn't pay for anything. The hotel, the airfare, food, everything is all covered by the group. So that person can get that experience of coming over to the U.S. and watching a football game in the U.S. And I just thought that was just a phenomenal thing. And Rich and I got these jerseys, these soccer jerseys that say 103 Crew Germany. Just a great experience meeting him and others from the Germany crew. Just an electric tailgate, just a great job by Anthony and Johnny and Frankie to put on that tailgate. Just it was great. And then I hear that they did some donations to a foundation based off money that was raised by the 103 crew over in Germany, and donated money to a cause here in the U.S. Just great work by the 103 crew, and obviously a great job by One Team Our Team by putting on that and obviously donating it. And all their money goes to, they don't pocket anything, and that's a great thing. And I really wanted to point that out, Vince, because there's so many groups out there that are making money off the fans. And I thought Frankie said it'd be best when we were talking in this hotel room about this group, the One Team Our Team, is that when they raise money or they do these things where they take donations, right? They don't pocket money for them to get rich. They're donating it back to kids or different, kids foundations for kids that can't afford toys or whatever it may be, for cancer awareness. That's just phenomenal work that they do, and I wanted to take 2 minutes just to kind of point that out. That's tremendous, and it's kind of like the Bills Mafia, right? They always donating to a cause, even if it's against an opposing team that something happens. That's what's so great about fan bases, right? That they see things like that and they take the opportunity to use the NFL as a platform to raise money for different charities, and it's just great. And it's great that your fan base does it in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And this team right here, the One Team Our Team, yes, it's in smaller dollar values, but again, nonetheless, they're taking that money and putting it to good causes for people. And so just great work all the way around. So it was a great down in Tampa. Man, was it hot. Whew, man, that was it was real hot. So I just put it that way. I want to get into everything, but it was just real hot there. So I have a feeling something is coming up here that I'm not going to like. I just got this feeling.
I hear all of these stories and camaraderie and breaking bread and visiting locations. And wait, I didn't hear every location. There was one more place you went to.
Oh boy, I'm not going to like this at all. At all.
please just share where you had a piece of pie, you had a slice of pie.
I'm drawing a blank, bud.
Pizza Joe's.
Oh, Pizza Joe. Yes, I went into the enemy territory of Pizza Joe's, but let me tell you something about Pizza Joe's. Yes, it's a Buffalo sports bar. Um, One decked out really good. And if you're a Buffalo Bill fan, that you got to go to Pizza Joe's, right? If you're a Buffalo Bills fan. But meeting John, the
Mm-hmm.
owner, man, what a classy guy! Just a really down to earth guy. Like it, how could you not want to go to a place that makes you feel like your family? And he greets you when you come in. He greets you when you're leaving the place. When you're walking out the door, he's shaking your hand. Just a great business model he has there. Um, the staff that was there were very pleasant. Yes, in my being a Jets fan, and I told them that they needed to put green on the wall. Even with all that, they were still hospitable to me, and still made me feel welcome there in the place. Now, God knows what they said when I walked out the door to that crazy New York to get the Jet fan, get him out of here. But in all seriousness, John and his staff were great. It was just a really cool atmosphere to be there, just to see the different things that they got going on there. And for you, like you said, it's like home with the food, right? So a really great job by John and his team over at Pizza Joe's. In is that considered Clearwater? What
I
town is it
I
considered?
think it's Palm Harbor.
Palm Harbor.
I think it's Palm
I
Harbor.
just know it's off US 19. That's all I know.
All I know is that I was there for part of the tailgate, a very small piece, and I was appreciative that my man Stevie D reciprocated. And even though it wasn't a tailgate, but he came into my place, so it was a little give and take. But it was actually nice to hang out there. I saw Johnny there as well, and I'll tell you what's funny. Admittedly, I will say that the Bills are international. Um, and it's weird when I go to a Bills game or go to a Sabres game down here in Tampa, how many people you see that you know. It's just crazy. I mean, all the people from that I've seen from my high school. I went to a Sabres game and saw like 5 or 6 people from my high school. Not just my high school, like my class, like plus or minus, right? So you had like maybe if I was a junior, I saw people that were sophomores and people that were seniors. They were at the Sabres game. I was like, what's going on here, right? And it was kind of like a class reunion. But going to the Jets game, I have to give credit. Maybe it's just the invasion of New Yorkers down into Florida. Maybe that's what it is. But we saw Jason. It was great to see Jason. Hadn't seen him in, man, almost 15, 20 years. He looks good. He's doing good. So that was good to see Jason. And then just some of the other people, a lot of people, Stevie D, who I've met through you, but got to put some names to faces. So that was really cool and a good experience. And we'll get into the game a little bit later on. Um, Obviously, we're here to talk about the Bills, the Jets, and the happenings in the NFL. But my man Stevie D wants to pivot, not the Pivot podcast, but he wants to pivot. And go ahead, the floor is
So
yours.
I know we generally talk football, right? Obviously, but there was a stat that I heard right before we came on that I was astonishing to me. And so Aaron Judge broke a record last night for the New York Yankees, or tied a record and an American League record with his 34th intentional base on balls. Right, so he tied Ted Williams with 34. And as I'm listening to this, the Yankee telecast talking about it, but they said the MLB record for intentional base on balls in a season is owned by Barry Bonds in 2004 with 126. Right. So when you think about records, and there's many records in baseball that I think are untouchable, especially the way the game is being played today, it's hard to fathom that Aaron Judge, who's now had 4 times 50 plus home runs in his career, as of tonight he hit his 50th, and he's got 2 times he's hit over 60 in his career, that he's been walked 34 times intentionally, and he's 92 away from a major league record in Barry Bonds. And I just can't fathom being walked intentionally 126 times in one season. 126 times. Just a crazy record stat that I felt like I had to say tonight, because that's just a crazy number to me. So
Yeah, definitely. That is especially
no matter what you think of Barry Bonds, right? Because you have people that hate him and people that love him. I mean, that year, 73 home runs. He batted like 370. He had over 200 walks in that season, with 126 of them being on the intentional variety. You want to talk about getting one pitch to hit in the bat, and you're doing it. That's what's so remarkable about that season. That is unbelievable. That you can go up and maybe get one pitch to hit in that at bat, and you either hit it out of the park, get on base, because he batted like 370 that year. It's just incredible.
for sure, for sure. All right, Stevie D. You, as we mentioned, you were down here, um, and there was some action that was taking place over the weekend. Um, I guess we call this the week of the blocked field goals.
Crazy.
Does that work out? It was insane how these games were wrapping up, and to see exactly the final outcomes. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about yours, but there were some other games. There's a little bit of controversy. Is it sour grapes? Probably so. Probably so. But with the Eagles Rams game in the block kick, just how the referee seemed to be kind of positioning. Who was that? Jordan Davis started positioning him a little bit. Now that's a big man. That's a big man. So I don't know how much movement that you could do with him, but that was one of the games that came down to a block kick.
There was 2 blocks in that game, I believe, altogether.
Yeah,
That was the second block.
yeah, for sure. And it makes you wonder: is the new rule, have the special teams coordinators kind of caught up to the new rule, the new alignment for the defensive players on special teams when they're going into that block kick? Because if you remember now, you can no longer be heads up over the center. And then you can jump over, but you cannot use leverage to get over. That was another block kick. It was just straight, just jump over the pile. What in the world is going on? But from a special teams perspective, have the coaches now, after adjusting to the rules, the lineup changes, have they found a way now to kind of get through? And there's always a change, an adjustment, a rechange, and adjustment. But to see so many happen in just a very small window, it really makes you wonder. From the coaching and the special teams coaching, is that what we're seeing? In is this only the beginning of a year of the blocked field goal or the blocked extra point?
Man, I thought, man, well said right there, right? Because where is this all coming from in 1 week? And you wonder if there is a loophole, right, where they found something where they can take advantage of it. Because it is wild. I mean, the one in the Jet game, he just leaped the guy. He just went over him, right, which is crazy athleticism. The other guys just kind of went through that area. Just, I don't know. I think the one the Jets did is a little bit harder to do. That one is because the guy stayed down too low. That could be corrected. So the one the Jets did, that really shouldn't happen. You should never allow a guy to be able to leapfrog you there. So that one is pure luck. The other ones are really more of, hey, right, did they find something there to block field goals? So I'm sure every special teams guy is going to be looking at all of those to see, what did they do? How can we leverage that for our own field goal blocks?
And then Stevie D, moving away from the field goal blocks, which is still just crazy to me, the way that went down in so many games. But this was also the week for the backup quarterbacks to shine. Once again, the Jets just don't want to miss out on any opportunity. The Jets had a backup quarterback, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later. But you had, you guys just always like to be in something, don't you? You guys got to have your hand in something. But, you kind of look around the league. This was the week where you had a Marcus Mariota starting, right? And you're like, Marcus Mariota, oh, really? Right, and then Brock Purdy was out, so Mac Jones is in. Mac Jones, really?
Mac Jones.
You got all these guys that are in there having their opportunity, and even though those were the names that we heard, there was one other backup quarterback who decided that he was going to play, and I guess he was ready to go back to the bench. That would be one Mr. or should I call him Mrs. Russell Wilson. Sierras. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
And you can't forget about the one that our guy Jay used to say he was a top 6 quarterback in the league.
Carson. Yes.
A 50 burger.
He did. So let's just jump into this week. So, and I want to start with the Giants. This, I'm going to tell you right now, Stevie D, I was thinking about this. This is self-preservation at its finest, right? This has nothing to do about winning and losing, because if you really, really were concerned about the future and winning, you would leave. No, you would take and put Jameis in.
Yes.
That's what you would do. Yes. Russell would be gone. Yeah. Jameis would be in, and Jackson Dart would still be on the bench, because you want to develop this kid. You don't want to ruin him. That's what you want to do.
When you think of the Giants lately, Daniel Jones could not get out of his own way with the Giants, right? Could not get out of his own way. He leaves the Giants and Dable, and look what he's doing with Indianapolis. Now, it could be an anomaly over 3 weeks. We'll see, over a longer length of time.
He was bad before Dable, though.
Yeah, but it's that whole giant organization. But
yeah.
I mean, Dable's what, there 2 or 3 years with Daniel Jones?
Yes.
I mean, that's a sample size. But again, Daniel Jones should never have been drafted high. But it is funny that he's over in Indianapolis and he's 3-0, looking like all world.
Yep.
The Giants do not have an offensive line to protect Jackson Dart. What are you doing? That's my biggest thing. What are you doing? And it goes back to what you said, preservation. You're hoping that this kid can save your job. And the problem is you're going to ruin the kid.
Oh, no. When the end of the season comes, you're going to say, well, I had a rookie quarterback in there. I need an additional year to work with this kid, because you could see how good he was.
Oh, he won't get it because you already let Saquon Barkley go. Daniel Jones is thriving with the Colts. So I think their fate is sealed if they don't win. If I'm an owner, I'm probably looking at this and saying, do not play my kid.
I am too.
Right? I'm saying you have Russell and you have Jameis. Those are the guys. If those two are hurt and I have to play the kid, then that's something different. But those are the 2 quarterbacks. You are not ruining this guy. And really, I'm surprised Mara is signing off on this.
So are they just making the decision because that's what the fans want? Because we heard the fans. I mean, the fans were booing Russell. I booed Russell before he even took the snap, and I'm not even a fan. But the fans were booing Russell Wilson in there. Rightly so, Stevie D. Rightly so.
I mean, did you see that one sequence of plays in the red zone?
Yes.
At the 5-yard line?
The end of the game. This is the end of the game. This is money time. Money time. What? I've never been a Russell fan. Never. Never. I'm not a Giants fan ever, right? And so, but I'm watching this thinking to myself, what are you doing and how bad can you be? It's just mind boggling. It is mind boggling how this man has a job. How he has a job. Stevie D, he went back to pass and threw he's known for his moon balloon over the top. You're in the red zone. And he threw a balloon ball into the stands. What are you doing? It's fourth down. Fourth down. You need the score. And you feel a little bit of pressure and you're just going to throw it up in the air where nobody can catch it. I felt for Giant fans. Normally, again, I don't like the Giants, so normally I wouldn't. I felt for Giant fans. I have seen some of those videos. I don't think I would take it that far, and I think those are fake. I really do. I think those are fake. But I have seen it where people have thrown things at their screen. I've seen where people have ripped their television off the wall. I don't believe in that, and if you really did do that on purpose, you're an idiot. But still, it's a moment like that where I could understand maybe. Because I'm watching this thinking to myself, it's more than just scratching my head. Bro, we need the touchdown. Where are you throwing the ball?
And I think that's what they ultimately saw at the end and said, we can't go with this kid. But why you wouldn't go to Jameis Winston is beyond. I don't know why Jameis is on the roster. Then trade him. Cincinnati needs a quarterback. If you're not going to play him, then trade him. Because if Russell Wilson is your backup, then trade Jameis and get something. Because Cincinnati needs a quarterback.
I wonder if they let Russell go.
It's funny. It's funny you say that, right? Because last year they finally let Daniel Jones go. Because if you're not going to use him, you might as well cut him and let him find something somewhere else and move on. I still think that's a possibility. I think it is a possibility that he gets cut because I think he's going to go back and talk to his agent. I don't know if you listened to the Russell Wilson press conference that he had after practice, but he talked about I know I can still play in this league, and I know I can still execute. So he still believes that he's like a starter mentality, and so I can see him going to his agent saying, "We got to figure out a way out of here, and where I can get cut. Maybe the Bengals will sign me."
Hey, CVD, I can still dunk a basketball
On a 6-foot net.
No, I can still dunk on a 10.
No.
Yeah. Well, if Russell can still play, I can still dunk a basketball.
Yeah, fair.
That's all I'm saying. If he can do that, because I don't think you ever could play. You were just a benefactor of having Beast Mode, having the Legion of Boom, Doug Baldwin, all those guys. That was it.
The New York media on the fan, WFAN, I know you're familiar with the station, and they had the conversation about the Hall of Famer Russell Wilson, and somebody was saying he's a Hall of Famer, and I'm like, he may have had a really good start of his career, where he won a Super Bowl. Yes, he lost the Super Bowl, where he's making the playoffs and he had some good numbers, rushing, throwing, that first 8 years. But if you look at his last 5 years body of work, that there's an addition and then a subtraction, right? So if you had 8 great years and then you had 5 bad years where you got run out of town in Seattle, Denver was willing to eat $85 million after 1 year.
That in itself,
right,
is bad.
Right. Then you go to the Steelers, and you were good. You had an opportunity. They could have re-signed you there. They want nothing to do with you. And now the Giants have moved on. That's 4 organizations that have moved off of you in 4 years. That's not a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry. And because you're still young, right? It's not like he was 40 years old and he became a journeyman at 40 to hang on. Some may say Vinny Testaverde, when he was in his 40s, kind of hung on to go from team to team there because he didn't want to hang it up. Russell Wilson is in his mid 30s and nobody wants him. So just because you win a Super Bowl doesn't make you a Hall of Fame quarterback. And really, your own stupidity and wanting to be the hero to play hero ball in a Super Bowl cost your team a second Super Bowl when you have Marshawn Lynch, which is an automatic. You give him the ball 4 times, he's going to get you 1 yard. But you wanted to be the hero in that game to throw it to be interception, to have that interception. Because I was wondering if it was, for years I was wondering, did it come from Pete Carroll? Comes to find out, really through Marshawn Lynch. That was an audible for him to throw it. That was called by Russell Wilson. So to me, that tells you everything you need to know about the guy. I think his ego and everything that goes with it. I don't think he's a great teammate with his players. And so, no, that's why I kind of laughed at it when people talk about him as the Hall of Fame today in New York.
They didn't ask me, Stevie D. They did not. Or maybe they've watched previous episodes and they know exactly where I stand with Russell. It brings up a good question. It really does, because we've done the Hall of Fame talk before. Not to go down that rabbit hole, but just I want to ask you this question. You talk about Russell having, a good start to his career, good 8 years. But was he truly a benefactor of, as I mentioned, good to great players around him? They had one heck of a defense out there. Nobody wanted to go up against Bam Bam. Out there trying to lay people out. Then you had Sherman out there just roaming around. I mean, they had a great defense. Defensive line, linebackers, secondary, and they instilled fear. And so you didn't want to go up against them. And then offensively, they always had good to great talent. We're not going to hear Hall of Famers, so it'd probably leave it out of the great, but it worked. It really did work for them. Does that make him a Hall of Famer because you're surrounded by that cast? As soon as that cast was gone, your play went down. So really, what's true? Is it true that when there were players, you played good, and when there weren't players, you played bad? Well, let's look at the Hall of Famers. Let's look at, I know you don't like it, but let's look at a Dan Marino. He started with Duper and Clayton and went berserk. But then once he started getting washed up wide receivers or guys you'd never heard of, or guys that, were out of the league after a few months, he was still good. That's the difference. I know. But
you know me, I don't go against the Italians very often. Probably really nothing. He's probably the only Italian that I go against is Dan Marino. So I'm sorry, I had to get it out. So
and I'm not doing that to throw a jab, but it's the perfect example of somebody that had talent and did really well, and didn't have talent and still did well. So you can see it was the player. Russell had talent, the team did well, and he did well. Lost the talent, and now he's jettisoned. And then he goes and he plays, no disrespect to Cortland Sutton, but he plays with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy wanted to get out, and it was a disaster there. Goes to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh really doesn't have. I mean, they really don't have the same level of offense that they've had in the past.
True.
He didn't do well. I'd venture to say Justin Fields did way better, and he's an inexperienced quarterback with that same level of talent. Now you go to the Giants. Giants actually have a little bit of talent. They really do.
It's mind-blowing to me that Malik Neighbors is invisible in that offense.
Well, the game before, he blew up. This game, he gets his first catch with like 5 minutes to go in the game.
But I don't think he did anything week 1 either. Right? So 2 out of 3 games, he was nowhere to be found. Right? So you're right. He did blow up against the Cowboys. Right? But it was against the Cowboys.
Which we saw what happened with the Cowboys. Well, again, let's move off of Russell. Let's continue down the path of the Cowboys, Stevie D.
Okay.
Because Russell looked great against the Cowboys. Caleb Williams had his coming out party against the Cowboys. Wait, what do they do those? If this is true,
Right.
this is true. This must be true. Well, it must be true that the Cowboys defense is absolutely pathetic.
Well, Jerry said, we're just a pass rusher away, and he said that a couple weeks ago. But they did say in that record-long press conference that they had when they traded Parsons to Green Bay, in that he says, but it's okay. We have Matt Eberflus as our defensive coordinator, and he'll scheme up where we'll bring pressure. So we'll be okay because we're going to scheme it. We're going to scheme the pressure. How's that working out for you in Dallas?
Well, it's working out so well. We need to sign Jadeveon Clowney.
Who didn't he just get arrested right before he signed?
Don't worry about that. This is Big D. This is Big D. We got you covered down in Big D. No,
But did it happen in Dallas? So I think
No.
they only can. Yeah. See,
Yeah.
so I think their limit is only within the state lines.
well, they're going to tell Jadeveon, you cannot leave the state of Texas. We got you. All right. So, we have a little bit of a kind of a little scroll, a little addition that we've added here, trying to put a little recap of some of the games. It's designed for those that have 20/20 vision. So, the visually challenged, you may run into some problems. But, Stevie D, say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. Joe Flacco got the dub. Without a touchdown, too, by the way.
That was one of those lucky games, but he got it. I mean, how? First of all, you don't want to believe that sports betting gets involved and teams winning or losing.
Oh, boy.
Like Green Bay has no business losing that football game. You're up 10-0. You're throwing a shutout with 5 minutes to go in the game. Right? It's not like it's 10-0 at halftime and they come back and win. It's 10-0 with 5 minutes left in the game. Justin Love looked a totally different quarterback. Now, Cleveland's got some pass rushers, but again, it was 10-0 with 5 minutes to go. And then the magic of Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns get off the schneid and come back and beat Green Bay. And we've talked about this with Buffalo a couple of years ago, right? When we talked about the one game, I'm like, man, that one's going to come back to bite you. And that's a game that's going to come back to bite the Packers by the end of the year. Because there's no way they should have lost that game to Green Bay. Shouldn't have even been close enough for them to have a miracle comeback with 5 minutes to go. That one's going to hurt them because you got the Eagles at 3-0, right? Minnesota's not going to stay at that level and stay undefeated, but it's going to hurt them when they come in for that race for the number one spot. And that was
Absolutely. All right, Stevie D. There's something else I how do you get shut out to the Carolina Panthers?
I don't think it was just a shutout. I mean, that was a butt whipping.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, that was a butt whipping. How? I don't know. I don't know.
It just blew my mind as I first looked up at the board and I see the score. I'm like, wait a minute, this can't be true. This can't be true. You have Bijan, you have Penix, you have Drake London, you have Kyle Pitts, and they hire the Carolina Panthers, and they laid it to you like that? That's a fireable offense, in my opinion. It's a fireable offense. You can get beat. Any team can get beat on any given Sunday. We all understand that. But when you get beat 30-0, that means you didn't show up. That's what that means. Did you quit on Raheem already? I mean, how does that happen? We are that is week 3. How does that happen?
I don't know how it happens, but it's interesting because
Whoa, 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 whoa! Whoa,
we knew this was going to be coming though tonight. I
my
mean,
man came out swinging.
yes, he did.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. Whoa. That threw me for it.
But before we get into that with Craig, let's finish. I just want to finish this one note on the Falcons. Is that Raheem Morris was asked if he was going to go back to Kirk Cousins as quarterback, and one, why would the Falcons go back to Kirk Cousins? You already pulled that string. Penix is your guy. I find the question comical at times, and I guess it's got to be asked from a reporter standpoint. I guess somebody's got to ask it. I just find those questions comical. That would you go back to Penix? I mean back to Kirk Cousins. You can only go to from an injury standpoint. That would be the only way you could go back to him. You have made the change last year. You committed to him all in training camp. You committed. You got to roll with it because the guy's got to get the experience.
Penix's hand is in a cast right now because of that hangnail that he's got going on. Kirk, we need you to start warming up. But the way Cousins is, Cousins would tell you no. He's that type of guy who'd be like, "No, I'm not going in. You don't want me."
And I think most people at that age would do that. I can't believe that they can't. I guess his contract is prohibitive to trade him. I mean, the Bengals got to do something or your season's gone because that Browning kid is not going to be the answer. And that magic that he had a couple of years ago, I don't think he's getting it back. And if the Bengals want to try and hang around, they're going to have to go get a quarterback.
All right. There's several other games we could talk about, but since my man came straight out the box, I mean, Stevie D, Craig is mild mannered. You've tried to get us going in the whole Baltimore Buffalo thing with mutual respect.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is good.
I tried to stir the pot. I've tried.
And it doesn't work.
Bite.
All it takes is Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell gets you saying, "Whoa, whoa." Now, I will say this, Craig. Maybe those words should go internally into the Ravens locker room. Maybe that's where it should go. I'm not a big fan of Detroit and Dan Campbell. They going for it on 4th down. Yeah, you made it. I really think that you got lucky. You got a horseshoe up there, right? Maybe you're taking advantage of psychological advantage, right? Because a lot of pressure on the defense. Like this guy's going for where and when, right? And now you're like, don't hold, don't know it, no contact, or what have you. Maybe that's what it is. Craig is on fire. Craig is on fire. But still, you have to look internally. I'm not a Ravens fan, but I'm going to tell you, they are much better than a 1-2 team. And if it wasn't for the fact right now, and think about it, you're as lucky as some of the other teams that you're sitting in a division with Baltimore. You're sitting in a division with Cincinnati without Joe Burrow. You're sitting in a division with a 43-year-old quarterback?
43 in December.
Who we don't know what we're going to get. And even at that, they're not that great. You will still be able to play the way that you're playing and still win the division. You should be able to run right through that division.
There were some interesting statistics. The first team ever to be 1-2 to have a quarterback with 9 touchdowns and no interceptions and be 1-2. There was another stat I can't remember that came out this morning that I heard on Lamar, and maybe it was with the rushing yards. Well, honestly, think about this though. In fairness, if your running back can hold on to the football, maybe you'd be 3-0.
And yes.
Right?
I, I am so grateful that we were able to get the punch. I mean, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I was not rooting for you against the Lions because I wanted that gap, right? But you watch the same thing happen, and now I see Derrick Henry go into the bench, slamming his helmet and bang. I mean, just absolutely taking it out on the bench. Maybe take it out on that football.
I thought he was going to cry. He looked like he was going to cry. Like he was so confused at what happened. Like what's going on? I'm not a fumbler, and now I fumble every game.
And he's not.
Right.
Yeah. Not. It's crazy. It's crazy. And Stevie D, maybe from a Derrick Henry perspective, you've had so much success just running over people, stiff arming people that maybe, and they're hanging on to your biceps, right? And hoping to just grab something. And they're not really going after the ball. And now, they're like lashing, and now they realize you can let go of the ball. Maybe that's what it is. I have no idea. Could it be Justin Tucker? Maybe as he was exiting the building, he was like, let me sprinkle a little over here and a little over there. Could be. Could be that Justin said, hey, Derek, here's my black book. And, maybe he's getting massages and maybe, on the arms and stuff. Stevie D, I'm keeping it above the waist. I'm just saying on the arms, right? It gets kind of tight. Maybe he's getting massages up here, telling the massage therapist nothing down below. Don't want a repeat of Justin.
Some baby oil instead of some stickum.
Ooh, all right, Puffy. Okay, Puffy.
Baby oil.
So LeBron was at. You mean to tell me LeBron was at the Diddy party? Are we saying Derrick Henry was at the Diddy party? And he's still.
I'm not saying nothing. I'm not saying nothing. Am I saying something?
I think we need to leave that one alone. Oh boy, we're getting
dark.
Uncharted territory for this, right? They always ask, "Is the show made for kids?" Not this episode. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yes, Stevie, it is in his head. It is. It really is. You get
and that's a problem, right? When it's in your head. We see with athletes committing errors in baseball once it's in that head, or you can't get a hit, right? You can't get it out, and you keep thinking about it. So you wonder. You just wonder.
It reminds me of. It reminds me of David Duval, right? Great golfer. Then all of a sudden one day had the yips. And that was it. That was a wrap. I mean, my man, Chuck Knobloch, there's another one.
Why you gotta pick on the Yankee for? Can't you go like Mackie Sasser for the Mets as a catcher who couldn't throw it back to the pitcher? Why you gotta go after the Yankees for?
That's 60 feet. Knobloch couldn't throw it 45.
Yeah, but it's different. You're in a different position to throw it. You're contorted. You got to throw it on an angle. It's different.
But to that point, once it gets you,
yeah,
and they have sports psychologists, right, and it's a real thing to try, because I know Duvall. I mean, they were trying to figure out what happened with him. I mean, he couldn't do anything, and they tried to get out of it. I think he's kind of back, but more now on the senior. But
I mean, I got something silly, and maybe it's not silly, but I wonder if he goes back and looks at the tape. Yes, and this is where I was going, Craig. Tiki Barber. The Giants went back and watched tape on Tiki Barber and his fumbles, and they had him readjust the ball. It was in the wrong spot. And once they got that corrected, his fumbling stopped. And I wonder, sometimes pitchers tip their pitches with what they're doing with the glove. Maybe his arm is a little lower or a little bit more tucked or not tucked, and now they're able to get the ball out because he's just carrying the ball a little bit differently than he's done in years past. So you wonder if you just go back at the tape and look at where he's carrying the football in relation to the fumbles versus to when he's not.
So you bring up a great point, and without going down the whole Diddy path, that's truly where I was going with the biceps, though, right? Because the bigger the bicep, the way you're supposed to carry it up here, maybe it's not as secure, maybe it's not fitting the way it's supposed to. It's the most bizarre thing because to your point when we first started this, here is a guy that never had a fumbling problem. Now, too, I'll take it. It may not be that. Now that I think about it, it may be up here because you've had costly fumbles in the fourth quarter, not in quarters 1, 2, and 3, and they're still trying to pop the ball out then, but it's happening in the fourth.
Yeah, valid point.
Maybe it's because you didn't play in preseason. Uh-oh. Another OW Sports exclusive.
Here you go.
Maybe if you would have played some more in the preseason, this wouldn't be a thing. Whatever it is, I am happy because Detroit, who I still don't think is that good, I really don't. I think they are smoke and mirrors, Stevie D. I don't know about you. I know you're not a Goff fan. I mean, they have some really good studs on offense. I'll give it to them.
I have to give some credit to Detroit, and Johnny Morton, I think, is the offensive coordinator there, making adjustments after week 1. It's not easy losing your coordinators on both sides of the ball, and they got off to a slow start in week 1. In the last 2 weeks, their offensive unit has picked it up big time, and we should acknowledge that. Credit to Dan Campbell, more so Johnny Morton picking it up and making those adjustments in weeks 2 and 3. Because again, they have a first place schedule and they don't have an easy schedule either, and they've played well the last 2 weeks.
They have. I will give you that. I still maybe this is the season if they're successful where I will acknowledge Dan Campbell as being legit. That this may be the one. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. Now, if Green Bay continues to lose to teams like Cleveland, well, then there's a clear path. Then again, if Carson Wentz proves that he's the number 6 quarterback in the NFL, oh, we got ourselves a race.
Well, and think about this. Let's say Carson. At some point, they're probably going to go back to JJ. I can't see them going to sit a healthy JJ. But Kevin O'Connell, as far as the head coach is concerned, look what he did with Sam Darnold last year. Got to 14 wins last year with Sam Darnold, who was.
Don't you dare say that about Carson Wentz.
About what? Sitting the bench?
No, getting to 14 wins.
I'm just saying, whatever, I don't know what's going to happen with J.J. McCarthy, but let's say Carson Wentz actually performs and has a good season there in Minnesota. You look at Kevin O'Connell, what he did with Sam Darnold, then a Carson Wentz. I'm just saying Kevin O'Connell as a coach. As a coach, not so much Carson Wentz the player, Kevin O'Connell as a coach.
Jay would be vindicated
Yeah.
years ago. Comeback player of the year. Carson Wentz with 10 MVP votes. Oh, I can hear it now. I told you. All right, Craig, as a follower of the show, as a friend of the show, as a friend, I empathize with you. That's it. As a Ravens supporter, I needed that one. I needed that one
too. So when the Jets come back and the Ravens lose to the Chiefs this Sunday and the Jets win, we'll have the same record as the Ravens.
Think about this.
Yeah. The Ravens Chiefs, how important that game is.
The loser is 1-3. Craig, are you ready for that one? Are you ready for that matchup? I can't see the Chiefs winning this game. I just can't, Stevie D.
I turned down tickets for this game. We're going out to see Rich. He's pitching this weekend in an alumni game. So
Oh,
we're going to go out and see him throw. So they bring in all the people I've graduated through the years. They come back.
KP coming back?
I don't know if KP's coming back. I don't know. I don't know if there's like a waiting period on that, but that would be hilarious if he came back and Rich had to face him. But I was just notified that he's pitching. I don't know when he's pitching, but they do 1 14-inning game. So I'm sure they're going to do a big rotation of pitchers in that game. But he's definitely throwing, and so we're going to take the ride out. So wouldn't be able to go to the Chiefs.
Well, I will ask as I usually do. Keep me posted in game updates.
Yeah, well, if it's broadcasted, I'll let you know if it's broadcasted. I don't know if they're going to broadcast or not because it's an internal game. But if they do, I'll let you know if he gets warming up in the pen.
That's usually what I get. Okay, he got up. All right, here we go. Here we go.
So I'll tell you, the people out here will lose their minds if the Chiefs start 1-3.
Oh, they will. Oh, they will. They've already started making excuses, right? And there's reasons for it. It's the officials. We're getting hosed on the calls. Everybody thinks we get all the calls. Look at this. We're getting bad calls. Let me
They fired the 7 officials. I mean, the 5 officials. There was 5 officials tied to Chiefs games that were let go or reassigned.
Let me explain. When I'm watching a right tackle with the number 74, and the ball is still in the center's hands, and he decides he's going to start taking his steps back, that's a false start. People in Kansas City, let me explain to you. Just because it's Juwan Taylor doesn't make it right. Not to mention, Stevie D, we talked about it on here. If you watch it, Craig, if you watch this, when Juwan Taylor stays in his stance, it is a run play. When he leaves early, it is a pass play. I'm sorry to give the tip away, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Sorry. But I am telling you, Harbaugh, because I really want Kansas City to lose. Oh, Dimitri's on. You are right about that one. The way he was going after that bench. So no, it's not the officials or kind of screwing you. It's the officials doing their job. They're calling a guy for false starts. They're calling a guy for holding when he's got a headlock on somebody.
I can't say out here in Kansas City the fans do not like Juwan Taylor. If there's one player on the roster they want off, it's Juwan Taylor. They want the backup to play instead of that guy. And they're vocal out here about Juwan Taylor. They cannot stand Juwan Taylor.
I'm surprised he's still with the team. I'm surprised he's still in the league. Let me be honest. I am surprised. All right, Stevie D. It is time. So you were a guest in my city. Take it away, my friend.
Well, like we talked about, right? It was great to be back in Tampa. Obviously, to be with you and hang out with you Saturday and Sunday. It was interesting going into Tampa, into Buck Stadium. I don't know. It was kind of cool to see their old uniforms. I've never seen them in person, so that was kind of cool to see the creamsicle logo. I think that's a great uniform. I wish they would bring it back more in their history. And it was interesting in the game because it was their 50th anniversary, how they played a lot of music that was from 50 years ago. They kind of kept up with the theme. The DJ in the stadium did that. But when it came down to the game, we started off, with our first two possessions with field goals.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
Now, if you're playing it back in your head, you're probably like, oh my God, they did do that. Yeah. They played all the music from the 70s during the DJ. I forget, I don't know his name, but the DJ played all music from 50 years ago. From
See, that's when you know you're old, when they're playing older music and you're like, oh yeah, this you're completely
I did join that club that weekend. I did join the club. Right? So, in all fairness, I did recognize the music.
didn't even okay.
And so, I said to myself on the first drive when we were moving down, and look, it was a sloppy first quarter of penalties. I'm not saying that the penalties were just or not just, right? My angle, I was 4 rows up from the field, so I couldn't really see everything to know if it was a legitimate penalty or not on the Bucks, on the Jets, or whatever. But the first series for both teams was really, really sloppy with the penalties. I think there was I think 7 penalties called on the first 2 drives. That just one. I just hate penalties, whether it's for my team. If I'm getting it, it slows the game up. There's no flow. You just feel like every play, where's the flags, right? It's not a good start. But anyway, when we kicked the field goals with our first 2 drives and we came away with the 6 points, I had this sick feeling of when you're playing playoff teams, and the Jets the first 3 weeks have played playoff teams. In this game on the road in the heat, you have to score touchdowns. I'm not saying you had to score touchdowns on both drives, but when you're in that red zone and you're there, you have to come away with touchdowns. And when we're kicking field goals, I'm saying to myself, man, this is not good. It's like the pit in your stomach saying, you're getting downfield, you got to get it in the end zone, and we didn't do it, right? And then we saw the Buccaneers kind of tighten up on defense. You kind of, because what I said, part of the keys to the game for me, and I went Facebook Live, and if you heard it as I was talking on one of my Facebook Lives, one of my things I said is you got to get Tyrod Taylor into the flow of the game with easy passes, because he hasn't played in a long time. Easy passes, and they did that. And to their credit, they did it, and we were able to get down the field. And then once we got close, we got some conservative on some play calls that I thought hurt us when I thought the short passing game was working, and I thought we could have leveraged that more. It's almost like we got scared inside the 20. We didn't want to turn it over, and we didn't want Tyrod to throw the ball, to have an interception and come away with nothing. And so I was disappointed with the conservative nature at times that we had early in the game. And then when the Buccaneers made their adjustments on defense, it really tightened up. And more observations that with the Jets, and you were at the game, right? So I don't know how much you really pay attention, if you're really into the X's and O's, or you're BSing with the folks you went to the game with and having a good time. But the Jets cannot run the football to the right side, behind the right guard and right tackle. We're atrocious. We've been like that since last year. It hasn't been any better this year. Where we run the football, we run it over our left guard, left tackle. And when we did that, we had some success. And we tried to run on the right. We had 0 success running to the right. So I thought that was a failure of our offensive coordinator to say, I know you have to make them think the right, but when you're making most of your runs to the right and you're not getting any yardage, I would say conventional wisdom would say, try something different, right? I thought early on, it didn't bite us in the butt. We held them. The 4th and 3-inch from midfield, or from our 45-yard line. The Jets are the worst short yardage team in the NFL the last couple of years. It is amazing on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1s, we cannot get the first down. Not only can we not get the first down, we're not even competitive on the run play. We get blown up for 2 to 3 yard losses. I've never seen anything like it. It's truly astonishing how we cannot run the ball in short yardage. So what do we do when we have Tyrod Taylor, who's athletic? We decide to hand the ball off to Brees, who's at a 7-yard drop, to hand the ball off for him to gain an inch. I am not a Tom Brady guy, but Tom Brady, for a guy that has no mobility, was probably the best fourth and 1, 4th and inches quarterback that I've seen with no athletic ability. Because he knew when he got underneath center exactly what gap he was going in off the center. Was it going to be the A gap on the right or the left? And he would tuck down and push through, basically pushing the butt of the center forward so he can get that inch, going off that side. He got it every time. I got an athletic quarterback. That's all he's got to do. You can't stop it when you do that. No. We know everything in the Jets organization. We know it all. We turned the ball over where we could have gotten the first down, maybe have gotten a field goal on that drive, maybe a touchdown on that drive. Credit to our defense. We stopped them. They won the punting, and so it didn't hurt us, but it's not the point. The point is, what the heck are we doing a 7-yard drop for a running back when I need an inch? Horrible play by the offensive coordinator, by Tanner Engstrand, and horrible that Aaron Glenn signed off on it. An inexcusable play. Right? And then the pick six before halftime, John Simpson, I can appreciate you stepping up saying that was your fault. You allowed the pressure, and Tyrod threw the interception. I think Brees Hall stepped up and said, that's not the quarterback's fault. That's my fault. I missed the block on a run play. I can appreciate that. Okay? Tyrod Taylor's been in the league long enough to know that with 18 seconds left on the clock, you're not throwing across the field on an out, and I'm going to throw the ball at a 15 mile an hour clip across the field where it's an easy pick six. Taylor knows it, right? It should have been the call in the helmet. Don't take any chances. If it's not there, take the sack. We go into halftime. It's inexcusable. If the coaching staff didn't say it to the quarterback in the ear, right? It was a shame on the quarterback. Should never have thrown the football. It's inexcusable to throw that football. And that was a killer because now all of a sudden, instead of going 13-6 at halftime, it's 20-6 at halftime. Right? Third quarter comes along. Bucks start with a 9-minute and 51-second drive, kick a field goal. Jets get one possession in the third quarter. Yes. Right? We get the one possession. So that whole third quarter was controlled by Tampa with the 9.5-minute drive. And what does that do? It wears that defense. It wears it down. We were gassed. You saw it in the players. We were gassed. The Bucks had a good game plan, and they executed it well. They wore us down. Now you get to, 10 minutes left in the game, 9 minutes left in the game. Look, we see it. We saw it with the Ravens against the Bills. We just want to eat clock. Man, you let Josh Allen rip you apart in that prevent defense, right? Aaron Gillen, did you not watch? Todd Bowles, did you not watch that game? You play that prevent defense. You just gave easy throws to Tyrod Taylor all day long. Boom, boom, down the field, score a touchdown. All right, so now what's the score? It's 26-13, right? And then all of a sudden, kind of more hell breaks out, right? And then ultimately the Jets wound up, taking the lead and on a blocked field goal by an athletic play by Will McDonald. Again, special teams coach, how do you allow your player to beat out low that you allow a player to run? All you have to do is lift up, and as soon as Will McDonald touches the player, it's a penalty on the Jets. Absolute penalty on the Jets. Can't touch the player, but you allow him to leap over. Miracle play by the Jets, we take the lead. 1:42 left on the clock. Jets defense gassed. You knew what was coming. And Baker did what Baker did, right? Made his throws. The rookie wide receiver, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, number 2, made some nice catches down the sideline, burned the Jets, and they won the game. Now, I appreciate the effort by the New York Jets in the fourth quarter, right? Because you could have mailed that in, and probably nobody would think anything. You got blown out or whatever. So you made plays because the defense gave it to you. You made your plays. You got your points. Special teams made a play. You took the lead. Hey, it wasn't a blowout. I was not totally upset that they lost the game. I was more upset of how we played in the second and third quarters, because the fourth quarter, the Bucs allowed you in that game. They allowed you that. If they stayed the course, the Jets couldn't do anything offensively. The second and third quarters, we wouldn't have scored the touchdowns to give us the hope. But Todd Bowles eased up on the gas and allowed us back in the game. What really pissed me off more than anything in this game, yes, I did the pause, is the overcommit.
I knew where you were going.
It's inexcusable. I did a reel on Jets Hangar to show it from the all 22. We had 8 guys by Bucky Irvin in the first quarter. And now it got called back because of a penalty by the Bucs, but that's not the point. The point is we had 8 guys. Nobody's got containment. Nobody's got lanes. Are we peewee? We're worse than peewee football. You allowed. It was like the 8 Stooges all go across the field or follow him and say, "Oh, he's coming back field," and there's nobody there. Horrible. And that wasn't the only time that happened in that game. That happened multiple times in the game. That just happened to be the worst one. And it's happened all season. How this is not getting corrected is beyond me. Football players, you know better. You shouldn't have to be coached that to over pursue. You know not to over pursue. They called it out in week 1 against the Steelers with the over pursue. Do your job. Don't do somebody else's job. When you over pursue and over commit, you're trying to do somebody else's job because you're going in somebody else's lane. Stay in your lane, because you allow those cutbacks in huge yardage. Inexcusable. You're professional athletes. You've been playing football a long time, and you can't have it. From a coaching staff and Steve Wilkes and Aaron Glenn, damn it, do your job and get it fixed. Or get players on the football field that can. Because it's inexcusable at this level from a coaching and a player. And then you know me, I don't get too riled up. I really don't. But that one bothers me because that is fixable. That is fixable. The lack of turnovers by this defense is incredible. We can't intercept the ball, and when we do get a ball out, it just doesn't fall our way. I mean, that's just incredible. It just doesn't fall our way. But they got things they got to clean up. They could have been 2-1. They should have beaten the Steelers. You had an opportunity to win this game. They really didn't deserve it. Right? So it evens out against the Steelers. You didn't deserve to be in a position to win this football game, but you were. And you couldn't make the plays on defense because you were gassed. You were gassed. But again, 19 missed tackles. I didn't even touch on that. 19 missed tackles. Are you kidding me? Donate your game checks, defense. Donate it because you didn't earn it. You didn't earn it with 19 missed tackles. So
I will say this in fairness, and I appreciate the passion. But let me tell you guys out there, it's rare that we get the passion like that from Stevie D. You have seen me, and I've banged on the desk, and but typically, if you were to look at the two of us, he's the calm one. So I can appreciate the passion.
No, look, I saw Aaron Glenn, and I put a video out. I saw him in the first quarter going over to the guys and talking to them on defense. I saw him, pointing things out and getting involved. I love that, right? I'm just not standing on the sideline. I'm coaching. I'm in the game. Arian Smith had a legal procedure. A rookie, number 82, wide receiver. Man, Aaron Glenn was yelling at him from the field, and I love that. He just didn't just sit there like old coaches in the past, right? Like he's in on what he's seeing on the field, whether you're offense, defense, special teams. He's involved. I love that. But we got a lot of stuff that got to get cleaned up.
But what I will say, and we have said this about other teams. Now I'm saying it about your team. I've said it about my team. You have seen, at least through 3 weeks, you have seen some good, you've seen some bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the good that you're seeing is enough to let you know that things are trending in the right direction.
Yes.
You're not sitting there like, "Ugh, I got 14 more weeks of this to go," because you know that it's hopeless. But part of that trending into the right direction means, and again, this is what we've said to a lot of different teams up there, you've got to know and learn how to win, how to close the deal, maybe how to start. We've seen teams that start slow and then they can't catch up when they're a much better team. We've seen teams that have started fast and have really delivered a good performance for 3 quarters and don't know how to close the deal. We've seen teams where they just inexplicably they make just bad decisions, bad penalties, bad play calls, bad decisions on the field. What happens is over time and through good coaching in a good environment that we start to watch that meter start to go from one side to another. You guys are very close, but you have to learn to win. This game had, and you touched on it, had a couple things. Odd. It was very odd. All of the penalty flags on those first 2 series. It was odd. I'm not sure if it was you guys. No, it was the Buccaneers had a 3rd and 35.
Third and 29.
Oh, okay, 3rd and 20. It was ridiculous. You had false starts, and then it would, you lose 5, you gain 5. You lose 10, you gain 5. It was just back and forth, and then taking it back. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, here's the out. Just throw it for pass interference. Sure enough, there's pass interference. The game, the first half of that game, or at least the first quarter of that game, was really just the officials trying to. I don't know why they wanted to be seen, but also I will say, and those are on the post-snap penalties. It's the pre-snap penalties that I have an issue with, and that's where I think Aaron Glenn will command that locker room to address that. After that, getting called on a ticky-tack, handsy type play, you can't call that. You can't. You got to let the guys play, and I don't have a problem with that. The one thing, though, Stevie D, and you talked about left side, right side of the line, which one to run on. Even if we look at the stats that are up there, 15 carries is not enough for your running backs. You blame the OC and Salah and those guys not knowing how to. This is not the time. You took Justin. Well, you didn't take him, but Justin Fields is out. He's not even ready to throw the ball 35, 40 times a game. But let alone you have his backup coming into the game. And you start your series, pass.
Well, again, I don't have a problem because you got to get a quarterback in the flow. And in fairness, in that first drive, it was working, right? The short passes were working. And there was a critical drop by Garrett Wilson on that first drive on the sideline. He had the ball, he got hit, and it popped out.
Sure.
That Garrett, you got paid. I need you to start catching the ball.
But I think this is where you and I would disagree. I have two good running backs.
Yeah.
Or at least you claim you do. Not you, but at least they claim they do. This is an opportunity in the heat. This is an opportunity to just tell my offensive line that I've invested all this money in to go control that line of scrimmage. And by Allen, I want you to just be a bulldozer. And Brees, I want you to hit the corners.
Yeah,
I,
see, I didn't have a problem with their game plan to start. I didn't, because when I look at teams when they're game planning, they're thinking we're going to come out and run. So if you're trying to catch them off guard on the first series because they're expecting run plays and you're coming out throwing, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. I think overall, when you think of the game as a whole, yes, we have to run the football more, but I didn't have a problem with them coming out. I actually welcomed that change from the previous 2 weeks where you try and run, and obviously it worked against the Steelers because we ran really well. We didn't run against you guys at all. I mean, Matt Milano in that first drive was, hey, he was unbelievable, right? And he basically said, "You're going to run. You're going to deal with me all day," right? So he kind of set that tone against Buffalo. And then here, I didn't have a problem with them starting that run. Again, philosophy in this game, I didn't have a problem with it. Overall, I agree with you on the run plays. You are a running team. If you want to be successful, you probably have to keep your pass plays to about 20 pass plays a game, right? And let your running game dominate, eat up the clock, get them tired. But when you look at the statistics overall, our offensive line is 32 in pressures allowed on pass plays. 32 in the league, right? Worst. We're the worst with allowing QB pressures. So they have to go to the drawing board and figure something out, because it's not good. And we didn't run the ball well in Buffalo. We didn't run the against Buffalo. We didn't run the ball well in Tampa. That's 2 weeks in a row, and you're supposed to be a running team. It's not good. They got to figure out what they're going to be going forward. Now, the Jets' schedule is going to ease up here a little bit over the next 6 weeks, where you can take and say, okay, I'm not going to go up against 3 straight playoff teams or 3 straight division winning. Well, they weren't division winning, but 3 straight playoff teams, right? One team looking to go, in the AFC, and your team looking to represent the AFC. You got the Steelers, and you had the Tampa Bay that's hopefully going to make a run there in the NFC. So we'll see what they do this week coming up. Again, I just overall. There were some other points I wanted to make. You talked around, Aaron Glenn and in the coaching style. I do think Aaron Glenn will be a good coach. And I think there's a lot of Jet fans out there that didn't want Aaron Glenn, don't like Aaron Glenn, and refuse to see, just because you're 0-3, to see some of the progress in certain areas. Okay? I said it on post on Jets Hangar. The Jets have dead wood on this team. There's players you have to get rid of. Either A, the effort is not there and they keep doing stupid things like Michael Clemens. And I know you don't have a choice right now because you don't have depth. So you have to keep him right now. I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand. But we got guys that are not a scheme fit. So really at the end of the year, there's going to be some turnover here on this roster to get players more of a scheme fit. Andre Cisco, right? I think, did Cisco come from you, Craig? Did Cisco come from Baltimore? I forget where. Oh, no, Jaguars. Maybe it was the Jaguars he came from. Maybe he played a little bit with the Ravens. He stinks. He stinks. He can't tackle. He's horrible in coverage. He's bad on the pursuit. Horrible with angles, or to take the proper angles to make a tackle. It's just mind-blowing that our defense is out of sync and this far out of rhythm. And Jonathan May from the Jets Hangar, and he put a really good comment in, and I want to give him credit for the comment, is that our defense is more meant to play zone defense, and we're playing a lot of man-to-man, and it's backfiring. And again, you talked about it before a lot of times, round peg, square hole, right? Different fit. And it's kind of the same thing here. I think we got players that are not a good scheme fit on the defense. It's come to bite us, and so it's going to be painful. And I'm not giving Steve Wilkes a pass. I'm not necessarily giving Aaron Glenn a pass for poor play because we've given up 93 points in 3 games. But at the same token, you got to figure out where you can make adjustments because the great coaches make an adjustment. If if my players are not working with my scheme, maybe I need to adapt my scheme for my players for the short term to get through the season because you can't go through the season with this defense. It's not sustainable. We'll be in a lot of trouble. Um, but I'm a half glass full kind of guy, and we're in a stretch where we got some games where maybe we can get right, and it's going to take every bit of those 6 games to maybe we can win 4 or 5 of those games of those next 6 and kind of turn the season around in the mid part of the season. So, I know we spoke a lot about the Jets here, but I appreciate letting give me some leeway because this was a rough one. And there was a lot to kind of digest, not just about the game, but overall what we've seen over 3 weeks. Missing last week was another opportunity where I couldn't speak about the Jets and their areas of concern and improvement. But I do agree with your assessment of Aaron Glenn. There are certain things that you are seeing that are better. You just got to give it time, right? Not every head coach comes out and is great. And he's got learning things. There's things he's got to learn. Aaron Glenn as a coach, but there are certain things that I do like that we're changing. So,
All right. Um, so real quick, Bills Dolphins. We talked. We didn't have the rapid reaction, but we talked about what we needed, and what we saw was we saw a team that is just in a better class. You got lucky again, though. You got lucky because you were able to force a turnover. Aside from that, a very pedestrian day for Josh Allen, even though he ends up with 3 touchdowns. Um, we saw the running game that in the first half was really dominant, and then all of a sudden in the second half, it became very pedestrian. Um, when I look to the defense, I still see so many holes in that defense. And whether it be by injuries or just the lack of depth or the lack of talent. I'm very curious as we continue this stretch and so thankful. So thankful. And maybe I know I rail on Sean McDermott a lot. Maybe their thought process was we have a stretch of very winnable games that we can allow this to be our preseason. Okay, I'll hear that, but don't necessarily agree with that mindset. But we have some very winnable games, and that's we have another one coming up against the Saints. I mean, you just look at uh, really when we talk about the stretch of games and the opponents that we have. The Dolphins by far should have been a game that really we should have just blown them out. It just should have happened. It was a home game. You're coming off of back-to-back wins. You talk about not being trap games. You have a quarterback that likes to turn the ball over. You've done a good job historically as far as slowing down Tyreek Hill. Um, it should have happened, and if it by it not happening, what it should expose, what should come to light, are the deficiencies. Again, I go back to the defense. When 57 is out there, that's a problem. That's a problem. And we're trying to load manage and do whatever we can do. We did see some good plays by some of the rookies there, at the defensive line. But overall, just you're not cutting it. And I'm concerned as we get deeper and deeper into the season that we're going to have to be solely dependent on a solid four guys coming back, and hopefully we can stay through without any injury. Going to the Saints game, I have never seen, and I mean never seen, a point spread in the NFL that is 16. I haven't. Stevie D, if you have seen a point spread, I've seen double digits. I've seen 10 and 11, maybe even a 12. 16. You are basically saying three scores. Three scores.
I mean, teams win by 3 scores a lot.
That to me is a trap game. That is where all of a sudden you start reading the newspaper. You start reading what's on the internet and what's coming on Twitter and Instagram and all of that. And you look up and you say, whoa, they have us favored by 16. And then you lose by 4. Again, stay out of the trap games. Stay out of those scenarios. You just focus one game at a time. Focus on the fact that this is a get-right game for that defense with Spencer Rattler. No disrespect for the man. He's out there. He's earning a paycheck. He is a sacrificial lamb out there for the Saints because we know that they are trying to go for a quarterback. You do whatever you have to do to use this as a get-right game and get that defense humming the way that it needs to be. Josh, go out there and play the way that we know that you can. I mean, there's hard to say anything about Josh or Cook, right? These guys are doing what they're supposed to do. It's good to see the tight ends in play. It's good that Joe Brady is actually being able to open up the playbook. One of the things that a few years ago, everybody was talking about the 12 personnel. People that aren't familiar with 12 personnel, that's a single back, double tight end. Now we're running 13 personnel. And 13 personnel is still something that the defense has to be a little bit on their heels because you have the likes of a Dalton Kincaid that can play, more of a receiver type role. You have Dawson Knox, maybe not as inept as, or not as in the mold of a Kincaid with the speed of a receiver, but he's got good hands and he can stretch the field a little bit. Then we have the third tight end, the rookie. Pro Football Focus rated number 1 tight end. How? I don't know, because he doesn't start, but his blocking prowess, so you can keep him in line. And so if you need to have some sort of pass protection because your other 2 tight ends are out, you got him there. If you want to go to a power run game, he's one of the better blockers. That's why he was drafted. He's able to pancake guys left and right. This guy is kind of a freak. So Joe Brady is playing around and kind of molding, which is great, and I love that. I love that. I do want to see a little bit more from offensively. You say, well, you're putting up 30 points a game. Well, what do you want to see? I want to see more of Khalil Shakir. I want to make sure he's healthy. I want to see more of Keon Coleman. Right, Keon, this is supposed to be your breakout year. If this is your breakout year, then you don't go 3 for 20. You just don't do that. Now, I know everybody eats, and I know Josh throws to 8, 9 different people that are out there. But your job is to be able to make some of the bigger plays. You have got to get open. You've got to be able to make some of those tougher catches down the sideline. You have to be able to present yourself. You have to show that. Again, Shakir, 4 for 45, that was nice, right? We wanted to see a little bit more. I'm still wondering if you're kind of nursing that injury because we saw a little bit more than what we saw the week before, but it's still not that same Khalil Shakir that we've seen in years past where the yak is just incredible. You find a way, you're slippery, and you squirt through. So that's what I'm hoping for. Allow this to be that game. Also, let me just drop a little nugget into the ear there, Joe Brady, Bobby Babbage. Just going to tell you something. Seattle had this game won in the first half. Game was over. I looked up at the board and was like, I can't believe what I see. They put up 44.
In the first half?
No, but I think it was 40, 30, maybe 38 in the first half. Game was over. Over. Just saying. I know Sam and Josh are friends. I get that. Same draft class. I get that. Josh Sam was chilling. He was chilling. Kenneth Walker he had 16 carries, 38 yards. James Cook is way better than that. I'm just putting it out there. Get in, get your work, and be done. It used to be play 60. I'm going to tell you now, play 30. Play 30, and you're done. This team is that bad. I know we've had the scroll of our power rankings, and we talked about the power rankings last week. They are bottom 5. Maybe bottom 1 of the bottom 5. They are that bad. So take advantage of that. Go in there, get your work done. Go home, call it a day. We can rest, we can relax. We can watch 57 go out there and do whatever he likes to do, spin around in circles, pirouette. Actually, he's on the injury report this week. Limited practice, strained pec. He looked over Milano and said, "Hey, what's that pec thing that you got going on?" "Oh, I'll try that." That's another one that can go. So, all right, that's it on the Bills report. I will say now, I do want to go back to this game this week because Stevie D, I wanted to call something out. So, first
So
of
I do
all,
want to ask you something about your game as well. So
go ahead.
I'm
Go
glad
ahead.
you got back. Do you think the miss by Prater kind of derailed the momentum?
I did want to talk about that. I felt as though I felt I jinxed it because on the last podcast I talked about Prater and where he was going to make it difficult for Brandon Bean, Sean McDermott, because here's a guy who has kicked in the league for many years and he's kicked in cold weather, so it's not like he's a dome kicker coming to the Bills. And obviously, it wasn't a long kick at all against the Ravens, but the magnitude of the kick, the pressure of the kick, coming to this team, trying to show yourself and trying to show others. Yeah, there's a little bit to it. And then he followed it up in the game against the Jets, and he was banging it through, right? 3 for 3 on field goals. He did his job. Then we come to this Dolphins game, and I saw one of the worst misses I have ever seen. That was me kicking the ball. Actually, not. I probably would have kicked it straight, just wouldn't have got off the ground. This went due left. I mean, just due left. It wasn't even close. I don't think it hit the net.
No,
You know,
it definitely not hit the net.
it went just left.
Yeah.
So when we talk about Prater, did it change the momentum? It's hard to say. I would say yes. Anytime that you come away with no points, that's bad. When you miss that bad, I don't know if that's a momentum changer. That's people looking, huh? Yeah, right.
It just seemed like, didn't they score a touchdown off of that miss?
They
So,
did. They
right.
did.
That's
They
why,
were,
like, was there a momentum thing there where it's like they missed, all of a sudden mine was like, ooh, right? And then they went down and scored a touchdown. Like when you let bad hang around.
That's true. What that did was it took it away from a 2-score game and left it at a 1-score game. What allowed Miami to hang around and to come back, and not really come back, but to stay in the game, was our third down defense. It goes back to defense. That's the problem. I still think that the Prater miss was not a momentum shift like we've seen in other games and other scenarios. It was just so bad, Stevie D. It was really, really, really bad that you're like, oh, that didn't just happen or anything. And you still felt as though you were a better team. So it's not like you lost the momentum from that. But what was a momentum killer is not being able to get off the field time in and time again when you have them in third and long, third and medium, third and short, third and long again. You are the benefactor of penalties that are making it third in what, 20 something or third in like 18, something ridiculous, and you allow them to convert that third down. That's the momentum killer. And that's what Bobby Babbage and Sean McDermott have got to figure out. Because if you allow, yes, you have to kill the human with a human controller joystick or whatever they want to call it, right? And you have Waddle, you have HN, right? They have this other kid that's running the ball, Gordon or something like that. Big back, speed, big back and speed. Love it. Somehow I need you to.
Oli, I think his name is Oli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he didn't really show off the speed. He had the touchdown, but big back. I love big backs with speed. But you cannot allow these teams to be able to convert. As a Bills fan, you know what 3rd and 18 is. I think it was 3rd and 18. You know what 3rd and 18 is, right? That's as a Bills fan. You know who Stephen Baker is. That's the 3rd and 18. That's against the Giants in the Super Bowl.
Stephen Baker, the touchdown maker. I think it's what he was nicknamed.
Yeah, there it is. So it seems like in our history, we know how to give up those 3rd and long. Stop it. Right? Kansas City doesn't give those up. Not maybe now they do, but they didn't. Right? Championship teams don't give those up. They get off the field. They find a way. So, but Stevie D, before we wrap this up, I do want to talk about something that I saw. You and I, we discussed this a little bit. So I was fortunate and where I had the opportunity to go to the game, and one of the perks was you got to go on the field. I'm like, okay, well, so here are my questions. What happens when we go on the field? And I'm hearing, oh well, you can get autographs. Well, I'm not an autograph guy, so that's no big deal there. And then I hear, well, we'll be able to talk to some people. I was like, ooh, this could help out for OW Sports. I'm all in. Right? Who do I need to talk to? Who can we talk to? Maybe get some creds, whatever it may be. All right. Well, the end of the game comes, and I see a line of these people lining up to get on the field. And I look around, I'm like, okay, and it's a cornucopia of fans, right? But I'm still watching the field, and they keep picking up stuff and taking stuff away, and people are leaving. Yeah, well, where's everybody going, right? So the cheerleaders come out there, and they take their pictures, and then they're gone. Literally, the only people left were the security that was around each entrance to get onto the field, and they let you on the field. Look around. Okay. What are we supposed to do here now? All right. Then I started thinking, ooh, we're going to line up, play a little 11 on 11. New flag. Here we go. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Start stretching. And no, that wasn't happening. So then,
What, because you pulled a hamstring?
What's that?
Because you pulled a hamstring, it wasn't going to happen?
Well, that's why I was going to stretch. That's why I was going to stretch. But then I realized that wasn't what was going on. So then I made a joke. I said, well, we're going to see somebody run a 110 out here. And before I can say it, there's some guy running down the sidelines running a 110. Like, bro, as hot as it is out here, you just set up in the game. You're so excited to get out on the football field to run a. Okay, go ahead. All right. I'm not gonna, anything with your cornflakes or rain on any parade, right? And then I saw some young kids that were out there and they were running 40s, and I thought that was kind of cool, right? Anything to do with the kids, love it. Love it. And so you watch the kids, they're running the 40 and they're all excited. And I'm thinking, this is cool. And then I turn, and at this point, we're right about midfield. And I turn, and now I'm facing the logo at midfield, the helmet. And I see an individual that is on their hands and knees. This individual is old enough to know better. We'll say well, if they have a kid was a little older, I'd say 25 to 29 in that range. On their hands and knees, DVD, bent down, bent over, kissing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers logo. I paused because I couldn't believe what I was seeing, Stevie D. I like what do we have going? And it's still going on. It's not like, oh, and just a quick kiss and then got up. No way. Again, I know this isn't OW Sports After Dark, but this is the little freaky side that may come out on OW Sports After Dark. How long are you going to stay on the ground kissing the logo? Not to mention a logo that has been trampled on, where players have spit on the field and all kinds of stuff, and you're doing it. I was in utter amazement. And then finally it gets up and it's like he had reached his utopia. He was good. And then his wife got down with the kid, and that poor kid, that's going to scar that kid for the rest of their lives. They're going to be like, looking at their dad, be like, that's the guy that kissed the logo on the Bucs field, right? So you had that. But the last thing that I want to talk about this field, and it really surprised me, this was the end of an NFL game, which is supposed to be the most pristine. Now, we know what happened up at the Link, right? And they had to cancel a preseason game just because the field was so bad. This is a grass field. And Stevie D, I kid you not, there was probably about a 2 to 3 inch wide in width, running at least 50, 60, 70, if not 100 yards. Because I didn't go all the way down to the other end to see.
You didn't run the 110s?
No. It got by the time that I was ready to get started, the kids were out there running the 40s. I thought better of it. When I got to the parking lot, then I said, I'll do it there because the cars would be gone. But then the police were trying to get you out, and so I just never got a shot.
Next week.
Well, I got something to do next week, so we'll have to put that. But I'm looking at this strip of grass, and it's a cutout that you would see at my yard, not a professional stadium.
Like sod? Like a piece of sod?
Yes, it was. But it was almost like it was haphazardly just put down. And I was disappointed in that. I think that was my biggest takeaway, besides the guy making out with the logo. That was my biggest takeaway. I don't care if you have USF playing. I don't care if you have 4 or 5 high schools playing. When it's time for the professionals to play, I shouldn't see that. That shouldn't be there. These guys are being paid millions of dollars. And I'm going to take it to another point here, Stevie D. We talk about these injuries. Now that it's grass and I get all of that, but what if it wasn't put down the right way? What if a cleat got caught in there and caused an injury?
How about a gap in the sod from one to another, and there's a gap, and your foot gets caught in that gap?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very disappointed in that. Now, nothing happened, and that's a good thing. Oh, Mike Evans got hurt, but I don't think he got hurt because of that. But you would think you have millions of dollars vested in these players. The least I could do is put you on a surface so that you can prove your value and to make sure that I get return on my investment the following week. So that
So
I wanted to share that.
what's interesting about it is that the USF, the Bulls, played there the night before. And I wondered if they actually replaced parts of the grass with sod that night for the game. And that's kind of what you were seeing, sloppy sod on the ground.
Probably so.
Because I'm trying to remember what stadium would do that, where they would actually replace the field, like the middle of the field, before the next home game. And you're like, how do you replace sod in the middle of the winter in a cold weather city? And they got to play within 24 hours. That's not sticking. Are you putting glue? Like, how doesn't it doesn't move? I know, right? Because it's sloppy. When you just float sod down, you've had sod at your house, right? Where it hasn't taken yet and it's
Like you
moving.
call that sod. I don't know what I had.
Well, somewhere, whether it's back home in Buffalo, right? Maybe you guys replace some grass and you put some sod down. I know I've put sod down where you kind of trying to line everything up, but shoot,
In all fairness, I'm glad you brought that up because you know what it looked like? It looked like the work that I had done with my sprinkler system at my house. And as we were cutting it out, it was like this all the way down. You bring up a good point as well when we talk about replacing the sod or replace, how we've seen the technologies that teams have now where they grow the grass in different areas. They'll pull it out of the stadium. It's on a track, on a tray, and they will pull it out so that you can put it back in the dome. It grows outside and they bring it back in. If you can do that, again, I go back to your investment. You go back to the player safety. There's just too much risk to be sloppy and haphazard about the way that you're handling your field.
Well, and think about it. When you're sharing a field with a college football team that has home games, you're now putting 2 football games on sometimes per week, or you're playing every week, right? And they also, just because I had to pass by it, I don't know what they did Friday night, but something was going on in the stadium on Friday night as well. I don't know if they had a concert, but something was going on at Raymond James on Friday when I went to go get Rich at the airport. And then obviously Saturday was USF and then the football game on.
Knowing them, it was a monster truck rally, just chewing it up. So, all right, Stevie D, that's going to wrap this one up. We appreciate everybody that stayed with us and hung on through. Um, it was a very good week being able to see my man Stevie D and the DeCola family. Had a good time. And to others that I met for the first time, nice to meet you. And so we're glad. And new listeners, new followers, always appreciating that. As you watch the podcast, get a chance, go back. You can watch some older ones or leave a note, leave a comment, whether it be in Mafia Den, Jets Hangar, or even on YouTube. Go ahead and leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. All right. For my co-host, Stevie D, I'm Vince, and we'll talk to you soon.
Tune in tight, don't miss a